there, my name is Marley and welcome to today's video. As you can see from the title and the thumbnail that you clicked on, we are going to be returning to a video concept that I have been doing on my channel every single year since I started it. So I guess this would be the fourth year of doing it. But basically, I'm going to be reading 5 books from Indigo's best books of the year list. If you don't know, Indigo/Chapters is Canada's biggest bookstore brand, and they put out a list of their best books every year, and I like to go through at the end of the year and pick 5 books that appear on that list that I have not gotten to yet this year. It's a way to kind of catch up on some really hyped popular releases from the year that I didn't get to. In the past, I found some really awesome books that have been 5 stars, and also in the past I have found some books I didn't really jive with because sometimes I go out of my comfort zone a little bit with this. I will put the link to their list below if you want to check it out. But in the meantime, I'm going to play a clip from, I guess, a month or 2 ago when they first put out the list, and we can watch me go through the list and pick the 5 books that I am going to read. I filmed that bit a little bit in advance, so I had time to get my hands on the books. So without further ado, let's roll that clip. All right, here we are on Halloween, and we are gonna look at Indigo's best books of the year list to choose what I'm gonna read in December. So let's take a look. Let's start the screen recording. Okay, so we're here on Indigo's page. Fun fact, that's literally my cousin right there on the website. She's a model. So random, but that's fun. Okay. So, top books of the year. Number 1 is Hello Beautiful by Anne Napolitano. I actually have never heard of this book, but congratulations to Anne. I'm gonna keep scrolling. And then we have Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. Obviously one of the most popular books of the year. And I have, a friend that's been begging me to read it. I had a feeling this would be on the list, and I was hoping that it would be. So I would have a chance to read it. So I think I will definitely go with this one as one of my choices. I'm gonna have to. This was such a popular book on the internet this year. So this is obviously a fantasy romance. I've heard, things about it here and there with people's reviews. It's very mixed. Some people absolutely love it, giving it 5 stars. And then there's those people that it just really hated it. So I am of the opinion that I think I'm gonna like it, but I guess we'll find out in this vlog. Coming down, we have Becoming a Matriarch by Helen Knott. So I'm guessing this is Indigenous, memoir. I normally skip nonfiction and memoirs. 4, we have Moon and the Turning Leaves. Haven't heard of this one. The Art Thief by Michael Finkel. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. Okay, not shocked to see this on here either. I was kind of hoping it would be so I could get to this one. This is like a contemporary fiction novel, and it has to do with racism stuff and commentary on the publishing industry. I know it's like a white author stealing an Asian author's story, and it brings up some discussions. But I've seen some people really like it, but I have seen some people be disappointed in it. That's kind of deterred me from wanting to read it a little bit, but it is such a popular book for the year, so it makes sense that I would read this in this vlog. So I think we have our second book of the vlog here. Then Happy Place by Emily Henry. Not surprised to see that, but of course I have already gotten to this one. The Leftover Woman. It's giving historical fiction, and I haven't heard of it, so I might pass on that. Life in Two Worlds by Ted Nolan, some sort of sports thing. The Defector by Chris Hadfield. I have not heard of this either. I'm not really interested. It looks like sci-fi. Where's the rest of the list? Okay, top 100 books of the year. So maybe I have to hit shop all. Okay, then Page Boy by Elliot Page, who I actually saw this year at TIFF, but I've been hearing not the best things about how this story was told, so I'll probably skip that. The Circle, what is this pop-up happening? Biddlemoors, I have not heard of either. Memoirs of Miss Chief Eagle, no. Tom Lake, no thanks. The Starling House looks interesting. I feel like I've not heard anyone talk about this one though, but I'm kind of curious based on this cover. It is a gorgeous modern gothic fantasy. Let's keep that on the list. I just haven't heard anyone talk about this, so I'm not sure. Homecoming. Kate Morton is like always on these lists, but I have not read from her. Rick Mercer. Holly by Stephen King. I'm looking for anything else that jumps out at me here. Icebreaker is a romance I've heard some people talk about, but I feel like I mostly hear not great things about it. So I don't really want to pick that. Oh my god, we're going so far down though. I feel like I'm like cheating by not picking any of these. We have some like non-fiction looking books. Ruth Ware, which I've already read. Love Theoretically and Heartbones I both already read, unfortunately. The BTS book, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I'm sorry. The Whispers I've read, but Meet Me at the Lake is a romance by Carly Fortune I am interested in. I haven't read her first book, which I know it was popular last year. This is her second one. I'm still interested. Remind me of the description. Let's see. Oh my god, this stupid pop-up. Indigo, please stop. Okay, so this actually sounds really cool. It's kind of something I've seen before, but basically these two people meet and have this day adventure in Toronto, which is where I live, so that intrigues me for sure. And then they agree to meet a year later, but only one of them showed up and the other one didn't. And I think they spent all this time, or the girl spent all this time like thinking about seeing him again. They end up running into each other 9 years later, and so then they're gonna try and reconnect or something. Honestly, I'm down for that. I'm down for that. Okay, so we have 3 books. We have a fantasy romance, a contemporary, and a straight up romance. What else is there? Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. I am supposed to be reading it in November. Everyone Here Is Lying, I just read. Secretly Yours, Tessa Bailey. That is a romance author, super popular. Not shocked to see her on the list, but I have not read any Tessa Bailey and I don't really want to based on what I hear. Next line, Nothing Intrigues Me. Oh my god, I feel like I am cheating on this challenge. Okay, we have a V.E. Schwab, which intrigues me. I don't know if I've really heard people talk about this one. The Fragile Threads of Power. Wait, I feel like is this related to her other books? No, Threads of Power #1. Okay, let's keep this on the back burner here. Swordcatcher by Cassie Clare, we have already read. Okay, you know what we're missing is a thriller. Just Another Missing Person by Gillian McAllister is one that I have been intrigued on. I know she's another author, like she had a popular book last year, which I didn't get to, but this is like her second book, I guess. Holy frick, this pop-up. Indigo, I'm literally trying to promote you here in this video and you're sabotaging me. Okay, this is kind of weird. It's like a missing persons situation where we're following the detective, I think. But the detective like has to frame someone else for the murder or else something's gonna happen to her family. So a twisted game, a new heart-stopping thriller in which a missing case unravels deeper, darker secrets that lead a detective to an impossible moral choice. So that could be interesting. So let's do that one because we need to have like at least one thriller on here, and this is the first one that I haven't read that's popped up that I'm interested in. So I think we're at 4 books here. Romantic comedy, that kind of intrigues me. Reese's Book Club. Oh, everyone in my family has killed someone is one that's been really popular this year. So I wonder if I should read that one. I think it's another thriller. Agatha Christie and Clue. I guess it's like a murder mystery situation. Maybe like a whodunit situation. And I know this is going to be a series too, so don't love to have to start a new series, but I think this is kind of a good fun option if we're looking at like what the most popular books have been this year. So what do we have? We had obviously Fourth Wing, so that's a romantasy. We had Yellowface, which is a contemporary. We had Meet Me at the Lake or whatever as a romance. Just Another Missing Person as a thriller, and then Everyone in My Family's Killed Someone as a thriller mystery. Hopefully you don't think it was cheating that I scrolled down so low, but I think that is the TBR we are going to go with. All right, so we saw the 5 books I'm going to be reading for the next couple weeks. So let's get into it. I have already started one of the books, so let's roll the vlog clips now. Hello everyone. I showed a little bit of my shopping today. I was traveling all around to some different places. The first one was The Well, which I showed you guys. It's a new shopping center in Toronto that just opened. They have a big Indigo store there, which I was really loving. If you live in the area, I would recommend checking it out. It was a little bit more focused on lifestyle products. There was still books, but there was a lot more like games and like their cute little home stuff there. Went to some other places which I didn't really show you guys. Did a little bit of Christmas shopping, and then I went and saw Saltburn, the new movie with I don't know how to say his last name, Kiergan or something, and then Jacob Elordi. I rated it a 3.5 star on Letterboxd. I feel like it was pretty entertaining. There was a lot of disturbing things that happened as well, and Jacob Elordi looked amazing. He was really hot, and honestly his character was the best part of the movie as well, but I feel like it wasn't perfect. There was a little bit that could have been better about it. It left me honestly feeling very frustrated. If you've seen it, you will probably know what I mean. Like, it's just kind of upsetting. Anyways, now I'm cooking a roast for dinner. So I'm waiting for that to cook. At least with all of my traveling around today, I did get 20% of the way through my book. But I'll wait to check in until I'm like further in. But I'm reading Just Another Missing Person. All right, checking in because I'm halfway through Just Another Missing Person. I think this is going to be a pretty quick read. It's still relatively early in the afternoon, so I honestly might finish it today. It's pretty good. I'm having a pretty fun time so far, and I'm definitely intrigued by the mystery. Basically, our main character that we're following is a detective named Julia. She has a husband, she has a teenage daughter, and she's dealing with this missing persons case. The girl that went missing is named Olivia. We know that she was last seen on the CCTV footage going into this alleyway and then never coming out again. And obviously she's missing, no one knows where she went. So Julia is taking on this case, but then she basically gets threatened to frame someone else for this kidnapping and not actually find the real kidnapper or potentially murderer, but to frame someone else, or else they are going to reveal a big secret of hers that she has, and it involves her own daughter. So she has to go against all of her morals and obviously her like detective training to frame this person so that her secret does not get revealed and her daughter does not get endangered. So it's this moral dilemma going on, which can be frustrating because she's being forced to do these things, and I feel like she's not doing the best job at concealing it. Like, I feel like she's being kind of dumb, but I get like it's a stressful situation and it's obviously hard to frame someone for murder, but I feel like as a detective, like, she should be doing a better job. But I'm very interested to see where it goes and to see like who actually kidnapped Olivia. I have some kind of different theories of what's going on. We have some different points of view that we're getting as well, like Olivia's dad and stuff like that. I think this is going to be one. It's really going to depend on the final twist to see how much I like it. But in terms of readability, it is very enjoyable so far. And I feel like we are able to make some different theories, which is always fun. All right, it is later in the night. Oh, but I have not finished the book yet. I'm 80% of the way through, but I just wanted to update because pretty soon after the halfway point, we got a major reveal. We got kind of like the big reveal of the book of what was going on and why. And it was a pretty good twist. It was something that had crossed my mind, but I hadn't fully like developed the theory. So it wasn't like a complete shock, but I liked it. I thought it was like pretty good, but I feel like it has sort of slowed down the momentum of the book now. As I said before, I was really into the first half, but now I feel like I'm like I can put it down. Like, as I said, the momentum has slowed down. The pacing's kind of like shifted. There still is a bit of a mystery to it. There's still some stuff we're waiting to see revealed, but I just feel like the main twist has happened now. So I'm not as motivated to keep reading. Also, our main character, Julia, I kind of alluded to it in the first update, but she kind of does annoy me. I don't know, for this like great detective, I'm like, girl, you're kind of dumb. Like, I just don't think she's handling the situation the best. Anyways, I still hope it works out for her as the main character, but she is kind of annoying me. But yeah, so that might be where I end it for the night. I'm finding it kind of easy to put down right now at the 80% mark, but I think I'll definitely finish it tomorrow. I'm not too busy or anything, so that will be the next update, but just wanted to let you know where I was at. I can maybe see why some people wouldn't love this book with how it's kind of shifted. How are you doing, Peachy? What's wrong? What's wrong? Here I am, basically in the same spot, but it is the next day. I'm checking in because I did just finish Just Another Missing Person, and Miss McAllister did have a few more twists up her sleeve. We definitely did have a few more interesting plot twists. So overall, like, I had a pretty fun time with this book. I don't think it is a favorite thriller by any means, and I think you definitely have to be someone who's interested in reading from a detective's point of view and kind of into that crime police perspective, which I know some people don't love that, so be warned of that. But I think if you're okay with that kind of narrative, I think it's pretty enjoyable. One of the twists at the very end was kind of upsetting, and then I do feel like it kind of wrapped up a little bit easily, but then we had like that last minute twist again at the very last chapter. So I don't know, I think it was a good time. I'm gonna rate it 4 stars, and I think I definitely will check out her book from last year that I heard people talk about. I was mistaken when I think I said this was like her second book and last year's release was her first book. That's not true. She has released like 8 different books apparently after reading her acknowledgements, but I guess these are just the ones that have gained more popularity, and I think last year's release was a Reese's book club pick, so that's why more people were talking about it. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in reading more from this author, and I overall would recommend it if you're in the mood for like a fast-paced little thriller, also with themes of like parenthood, which I think I touched on earlier. It's a big theme of like, what would you do to protect your kid? We're following multiple different parents in this book and kind of the lengths they would go to protect their child, whether it's literally committing a crime themselves, if it would be to frame someone else, you know, that kind of stuff. And it's interesting because Jillian, the author, in her acknowledgements said that she was actually pregnant while writing this book, so this will be her first child. So she's written all these books about parenthood without even actually experiencing being a parent yet, but now I guess she is. So congrats to her on her baby. I've kind of planned, based on when books are due to the library, that I'm gonna get into Yellowface next. All right, I wrapped some gifts, aka put them in bags. I'm trying to reorganize my bookshelf, and look what she does. Immediately hops in there. Peach, what are you doing? All right, just spent a couple hours organizing my bookshelves, reorganizing them. I didn't film the process because, you know, this video is already so long, but this is the main shelves here. You can just have a quick look. Maybe, oh, Peach, calm down, calm down. Maybe I'll do like a full tour again one day, but I'm kind of not sure where to put all the little trinket things, you know, but she's the star of this video apparently. Hey guys, I'm 40% of the way through Yellowface, not quite halfway, but I thought I would check in. I'm feeling kind of bored with the book. So I don't quite remember how much of the plot I talked about when I was picking this book from the list, but I'm sure you have heard of it. In case you haven't, we're following this author named June. She is very much a struggling author. She has not found much success. Her first book kind of flopped, but she is friends with this other woman who is also an author. June herself is a white woman. Her friend Athena is an Asian woman. That's relevant, by the way. Athena has actually had a really successful publishing career so far. She's had multiple books published, had like Netflix deals. It's kind of the dream that you would imagine as an author, right? She's had this way better experience. So they're friends or like kind of acquaintances. They're not that close, but they know each other from college. And then one day when they're together hanging out, Athena actually dies in like a freak accident. So June June is upset by this, but not too upset to hold herself back from stealing Athena's manuscript for her next book that she had laying out. So yeah, June steals her friend's unpublished manuscript and decides to publish it under her own name. Despite this story literally being about, I forget what they were called, Chinese labor troops or something from World War I. So it's about like, it's a historical fiction about like some Chinese history from World War I, and Athena was Chinese, and so that was, you know, her interest in it and why she was looking into the history. And June is a white woman and she's literally trying to pass off the story as her own. She does edit it and stuff like that to make it her own, but yeah, I mean, she stole the story from her friend that literally died. So that's the premise that like everyone knows, and I have been hearing about this book so much, and I knew that, you know, premise so well that I almost feel like the book is a little bit boring to me because it's so much of what I just described to you, and it's so much just what I expected. Like, I think maybe I but I watched too many reviews of this book where I feel like I almost had already read it myself. Yeah, we're seeing June go through the process of editing this book, getting it published, that whole process, which I did find interesting in a way because I'm interested in the publishing industry in general, and so that is kind of cool to read about. But it is very much like that's the plot, like that's all that's going on, and you can kind of imagine like different experiences that June is having. It is a satire. It's making a lot of like commentary regarding the publishing industry. June, like, we're in her head, so it's almost like it's making us understand her motivations, but at the same time you're like, no, like, she's a bad person, like, no, she's doing something really wrong, and her justifications she has in her head are like not right, and a lot of her thoughts tend to be racist and stuff like that. So I like the idea of it, you know. I'm glad R.F. Kuang, you know, made this book and everything, but I'm just like a little bit bored. Like, I'm kind of waiting for my interest to go up a little bit because it is kind of very like straightforward and what I expected, but we still have a whole other half of the way to go. So sorry, this is my stupid tripod again that it just keeps falling. I have heard a lot of critiques about this as well. I think one of my favorites was Cindy's from With Cindy, which I'll maybe link in the description, but I'm sure you guys like know her and have seen the video maybe. She has some interesting critiques on this book, and I can kind of see that side as well. Like, I was just watching a reading vlog of someone reading this book actually, and they were like loving it. They thought it was so good. So I'm a little let down that like I'm not feeling that. I'm not loving it, feeling just kind of mediocre about it. I'm not really craving picking it up, but tomorrow I am going to be commuting to work, so I will get a chunk of it read on the subway and maybe finish it. Name a woman.
Cleopatra.
Really? Have you seen the TikTok meme with this trend where you ask your boyfriend to name a woman, and it's like you're supposed to start a fight if they say anyone except like other than you?
But that's stupid, because why would I say the person who's asking the question?
I guess Cleopatra is not a bad answer. I know this isn't one of my day in the life of a reader diabetic blah 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 series, but thought I'd update you to tell you my diabetes is really messing with me today. I went low while I was eating dinner, realized I carb counted wrong for dinner, so then I had to eat extra food to combat that. Then I decided to work out. Probably shouldn't have. Now my blood sugar is going low during/after my workout, so it's really screwing with me today. So now I've got to eat some candy, some lifesavers to literally save my life. Yeah, this is the sucky thing. It's like sometimes you don't want to eat and you literally have to, or like you literally worked out and then it's like, oh, I have to eat candy because I like messed up the calculations. All right, I'm in this sweater again, don't judge me. And I'm making a salad, but I thought I would update you to some multitasking because I finished Yellowface. I'm in a way better mood about that book now. It really picked up for me in the last chunk of the book. I actually really grew to enjoy it. I think it was what I said in the first update where I had already heard the plot talked about so much for the beginning of the book that I really just needed to get past that part that I knew, and then it was a lot more fun to read. It really focuses a lot in the second half on like Twitter and kind of calling out the hypocrisies of Twitter and like online cancel culture and all that stuff. So I found that interesting, and I think if you are in the online bookish space, then you'll definitely find this entertaining and can get something from it. I also think R.F. Kuang or Rebecca is very good at writing like a villainous, unlikable character, but really like getting in her head. And I've heard the same thing for her other series, The Poppy War, that we follow like a really morally gray main character. So I already wanted to read that series, but now I'm even more intrigued because yeah, I just actually had a good time with it. And sorry again, my tripod just like keeps falling on me. And yeah, I know I've heard people call it like kind of a thriller as well, and I never really got why, but you know, I can kind of see towards the end like there's a little bit of action, darkness, mystery to it. Like that girl June, she really didn't stop. She really didn't quit with her plagiarism and oh my god, stealing from the Asians. It was quite a wild ride. So I see why people have been loving it. It actually just won for the Goodreads Choice Awards for the literary fiction category, which is great because I probably would have voted for it if I had read it during the voting period. And I gave it 4 stars. So 2 for 2 with 4 stars. 2 enjoyable reads. And I also started the next book. So I will check in again once I have an update on that. And sorry this video is gonna be so long. Head to our first holiday party. Smile. Oh, you can't even see me. Alright, headed to holiday party number 2 of the weekend. Okay, I survived the back-to-back parties this weekend. Now it is finally time to read. It was a rough go though, a little too much drinking. Oh my gosh, I almost forgot to update on my current read, which is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. So this is another thriller and it's giving a little bit more of a cozy mystery vibe. I'm really enjoying it. I'm halfway through now. This is quite a funny book and quite entertaining. All the reviews are coming back to me now of when I've seen people talk about it. It's quite fun. So we're following a main character named Ernest, and obviously his whole family, but he's narrating it. And I think one of the coolest things about this book is the way that he's narrating it. It's basically like he is writing the story and he is telling it directly to us. He is speaking to us as he's writing. He'll also kind of like allude to little things and kind of almost like spoil the book for us in little ways, like not the full mystery, but in the first chapter, I think it was, he like tells us straight up which chapters have all the different murders. I'm reading the EPUB, so it's actually all linked as well. Of if you wanted to click on, you know, chapter 20, it would take you there. And I think it must be different in the print book. I don't know if it just says the chapter or if it says the page number or something for your version, but I think it's cool. They clearly had to do some extra editing for it to fit for like whether you're reading the EPUB or the print or whatever. So I appreciate that kind of extra uniqueness that this has. And there's little things like that throughout the book where he'll kind of be like, oh, you know, we'll end up kissing, you know, later in the book with like his love interest. Like he'll just kind of spoil certain things, which is kind of fun. The book is also kind of sectioned off where we're learning about each member of the family and who they killed, right? So while we're getting those kind of flashbacks, we're also seeing present day where his whole family is getting together for a reunion at this ski resort. But yeah, and then there's been a murder at this ski resort. So obviously it was someone in the family and we know they're capable of it. We know that they're killers. So the mystery is Ernest trying to figure out who killed this person. I think it's going to be connected to, you know, things from the past and all the different deaths that have happened with this family. But it's very entertaining, very fun. I'm looking forward to continue reading it. Hey guys, it's me. I am headed to another Christmas party, obviously, but I wanted to check in because I did finish Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone last night. I had a really good time with it. I do feel like I was a little bit distracted while reading it, which maybe like affected my enjoyment a little bit, but I really just agree with, you know, everything I said in the first update about it being so fun and unique, and thought it was a cool narration style. It makes sense. The author is apparently a stand-up comedian, so it makes sense why he is so good at the humor. I will say sometimes I got a little overwhelmed with all of the information we were getting, and I felt like I wasn't always totally understanding what was going on. We have so many characters, and learning all of their histories was a lot. But as I said, I feel like I was a little bit distracted reading this between all these holiday parties and stuff I've been going to, so that could be why. And then the end, you know, we have all those classic reveals that you expect in a murder mystery. There were definitely some that I had anticipated, I had kind of theorized about, and then there were some twists I didn't guess. So that's kind of the ideal situation in any mystery, which I always say, like, I want to have predicted some things and I want some things to be a surprise. So we definitely had that. And so I think I would rate it 4.5 stars. It was either 4 or 4.5. I just didn't quite get that 5-star feeling, but I highly recommend this book, especially if you're into murder mysteries. It's kind of a fun take on the classic whodunit, isolated setting kind of thing. Looking forward to continuing this series. I am curious about what the next book is going to be. I assume it's not really going to focus on the rest of the family, and moving forward we're more just going to focus on Ernest, but we'll have to see. Yeah, headed off to another party, but it is a daytime one, so hopefully tonight I can keep reading. I did start into the next book, so making progress. All right, we're checking in. I'm nearly halfway through Meet Me at the Lake. And really the only reason I've made it this far is because I'm sick again. If you guys watched any of my vlogs last month, I was sick like all of November. I had like 2 healthy weeks, and now I'm sick again. So I canceled my plans and have been reading. I kind of had to force myself to get this far in this book because it's a bit of a slow one. It's not the best. It's not the best. Basically, okay, so we're starting out following Fern is our main character. We are seeing her in 2 timelines. So one of them is present day and one is 10 years ago. Basically, her mom ran this resort in Muskoka. It takes place here in Ontario where I live, so that, as you guys saw, was an appeal for me to pick this one up. But her mom has actually recently passed away, so she has to go back from Toronto, the city where she's been living and working for years, and she has to go back to this resort that her mom ran and where she grew up. But she never wanted to run the resort, right? Like, that was never her dream. She was always like a city girl. But yeah, so now she's grieving her mom. She's back there trying to figure out what she wants to do, and then this guy shows up. We are seeing when she first met this guy, Will, 10 years ago in Toronto, and they just kind of ended up spending the whole day together and bonding. And so every time we flash back, we're seeing their day together, and all we know is they were supposed to meet up 9 years ago, so a year after their meeting, and he never showed up. So she has spent the last 9 years at first being upset about this, and then she kind of like moved on, but it's really like startling her to, you know, be seeing him again. It's bringing up all those old feelings. Kind of basic. a little bit basic. It might be too early to say this, but I feel like it's a combination of November 9 by Colleen Hoover with the whole like meeting up on a certain day years later thing, and also One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid, just because I feel like with the different timelines and how it's focusing on kind of how you change over the years, as well as they're like quite different people now. A couple things that annoy me about this, as I said, I feel like it's kind of basic. A couple choices are weird where like she keeps dating people she works with. Like, we know multiple exes from her, which is like, okay, people are gonna have exes, but her one ex works at the resort, and so it's like, at first when the book opened in the first chapter, I'm like, is this the second chance romance? Like, why is this guy her ex? Like, why are they adding that in, that she has to work with him? And then we know that she dated her boss at her job in Toronto that she's had for years, but then they've broken up and she still kept working with him. I'm like, why does she keep dating these people and working with them? And now Will has come to the resort to work there, and now they're like gonna reconnect and have a romance. So I don't know, it's like a little bit weird. There's a lot of like cliche kind of stuff. Obviously it's not the rom-com vibe because it has those serious notes. They're very like artsy people, like Will's an artist, like she's into music, like it's kind of cliche. It's not the best. I do appreciate the Toronto stuff. I mean, that's why I was drawn to reading this. I do find the main character's reasons for loving Toronto to be a bit relatable. Like I also grew up in a small town and then came to live here. So her story, you know, is definitely a little bit relatable for me. So I appreciate that. But I don't think it's going to be a favorite. I feel like maybe it'll be the worst book of this vlog. But I wasn't loving Yellowface halfway through either, and then I grew to really like it. So maybe there's a chance the second half will be better. Oh, I should also say there's a little bit of a cheating thing though. So like in the past chapters, they both have partners. I don't know if they actually hooked up back then or not, but it's a little bit of like cheating vibes maybe. So I know not a lot of people like that. I don't like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. All right, so I have finished Meet Me at the Lake. I did some commuting today, so I had lots of time to read. I think I'm gonna land at a 3.5 star rating. I'm not really sure, like it's a 3 or 3.5, because I just feel like by the end, it's one of those books that is quite like heartwarming, and I'm like, oh, like I'm happy for the couple. I'm happy, you know, it all worked out, that kind of thing. There's some, you know, mental health representation in there, which I read the author's note about. She has like a personal connection with some of that, like postpartum OCD. There was some kind of silly conflict at the end, as there always is, and I feel like they could have done more with the resort setting and the fact that our main character grew up there. There were, of course, a few employees we got to know, or people at the resort that she's known all her life, but I do feel like they could have gone into that vibe a little bit more if the book was longer. Like it is quite a short book. And just as an example, like they do call her baby because she grew up at the resort, a reference to Dirty Dancing. There were a couple other references to Dirty Dancing, which I kind of liked because I do love Dirty Dancing, but I think they could have done a little bit more with that. Also, the whole thing of them just like not contacting each other for so long, not exchanging like contact when they first met. It's always kind of a little silly with this kind of story of like, let's just meet a year from now, no contact. I don't know, you could like pop holes in the story kind of thing, but I think by the end it was sweet, but it's definitely not a romance I'm going to be like overly recommending. I think it was just kind of middle of the road, but I am interested to read her first book because I feel like people talked more highly about that, and even she talked more highly about that in her author's note again, that like she had a lot of fear that, you know, this book wouldn't be as good as the first one, and the first one had so much success. So I think I am interested to read her first book, but I'm not going to go out recommending this one, as I said, and I'll have to see how much I like the first book to decide whether I would continue reading from her. Again, I do like the whole setting, being in Ontario, being in Toronto. Again, feel like we could have gone a little bit more into that, but it was kind of cool. Like they went to Sneaky D's, which is where I've gone multiple times out partying. I did appreciate the references that were there, but it just could have been better. And then I did move on to my last and final book. I've read one chapter of Fourth Wing so far, so I will check in when I'm further. Oh no, it snowed. No. Alright guys, checking in. I feel like, why don't I do this angle more? It's kind of good. I should check in because I've read a lot of Fourth Wing. This is, you know, a longer book, so I was waiting to get to halfway. I have read about nearly 250 pages, which is like halfway. So I have been having overall quite a good time reading this. Happy to report it definitely, okay, so it's an adult fantasy book or like fantasy romance, but it reads very YA. Which is what some people have said about it for sure, but that makes it very digestible. It makes it very easy to read, so I actually do like that, despite there being a couple cringy things about the writing. I think overall I would prefer a more like easy digestible writing style than something where I'm really having to think a lot. But there have been some cringy things, like I was annoyed with when we were getting introduced to so many characters. The main character would always be like, oh, I think their name starts with like a D, like maybe it's Dan, maybe it's this, and then eventually the name gets revealed and they're like, oh yeah, like it's David, as an example. Like, and she was doing that constantly, and it's like, okay, just stop doing this. Or like the way that they're kind of like adding exposition for the world is a little bit forced, where the main character will just like recite history about their world when she's stressed. So it's a way for us as the audience to like learn about the world, because our character is just like saying it to de-stress. Anyway, I should talk about what this is about. We're in this fantasy world where there's these two countries, I guess, that are at war. It's very much like a war kind of like military book. So our main character, Violet, her mom like is like a high up general or whatever, and she forces her to go to this like military school to become a dragon rider, whereas our main character wanted to be a scribe. There's like a few different things you can do. You can be a scribe, you can be a healer, you can be a dragon rider, soldier, whatever. So she always was going to be a scribe because she was actually born with this disability, I guess you would call it, where her like bones and her joints are weaker, and so she gets hurt more easily, which I kind of like the disability rep. As someone with a disability as well, I kind of appreciate that. But her mom is like, no, you're gonna go to be a freaking soldier dragon rider. So she's forced to do that, even though she's like a very weak girl. She's not been preparing for this, and it's like a very deadly situation to go into because it's giving Divergent. I felt like I was reading Divergent for the first 100 pages of this, because it literally just feels like Triss going into Dauntless and then having to train and having people trying to kill her. That's basically what this is. She goes into the school, she's tested, and then a lot of her like fellow trainees are trying to kill her for different reasons. For one, because she's weak, so she's like an easy person to kill. There's kind of like a competition because there's only so many dragons available to bond with. That's where the fantasy element comes in. I feel like I'm all over the place with how I'm talking about this. You basically bond with dragons, and then you have this like psychic whatever connection, and then you like fight and defend the country with your dragon. So there's only 100 dragons, but there's like over 100 students. So you kind of are competing, and you kind of want to get people out of the competition, so you are more likely to get a dragon. Which is also reminding me of House of the Dragon, because that also has like a few dragons and everyone wants them. So this is definitely not unique by any means, which looking back, that is something I've heard about this book, that like if you've read any YA fantasy dystopian, then it's like you've read this. I think that's definitely true. I feel like she's taken inspiration from a lot of different things, but I think if you don't mind that, then you can like have a good time like I am. The thing that does make this a little more unique is the dragons, because I haven't consumed that much media with dragons. It's pretty much just like the Game of Thrones shows, and I read the first Aragon book, but I didn't like that. And then we have our love triangle. Okay, and I'm glad we're bringing back the love triangle trope because I like it. No, a lot of people don't, but it's like we have her childhood friend that she grew up with, grew up having a little crush on, and that's Dane, and he is like being the very overprotective one. If we're comparing love triangles, he would be kind of like the Tamlin. Like he's clearly the not as good option, and that's coming from someone who normally likes the friend in the love triangle, but he honestly sucks. And then we have Xaden, I think is how you say it, and he's giving the Rhysand vibes of the love triangle. He's also a bit older than her, like the wing leader or whatever in this school, but he is like dark and handsome. She's immediately so like turned on by him and attracted to him. They don't really get along. She thinks he wants to kill her at the beginning, but obviously we're seeing the relationship develop and stuff like that, and honestly I'm here for it. I am shipping it, of course. Like I'm giving into it. He calls her Violence as a nickname, which I've seen people make fun of, but I actually think it's cute. Like I am someone who likes nicknames and romances, so it's cute because her name's Violet and then he calls her Violence. We haven't gotten too much into the romance yet, but like I'm here for it. And we have gotten more into the dragons. So basically they had to do a threshing, which is the ceremony where they get bonded with dragons. And so I won't like spoil anything, even though you probably already have been spoiled about this or you've read it. But since that happened, it has been interesting. We're having more interactions with the dragons, finding out more about them, and I like it. I like where that's going. I don't feel like I'm loving it, which is too bad because I feel like it'd be more entertaining if I was either loving or hating it. I'm kind of just liking it, enjoying it, finding it pretty easy to read, but I'm not obsessed. Like I heard some people be like obsessed, read it in one day kind of thing, and that's not how I'm feeling, unfortunately, but I am just having a good time with it. Okay, this update's been long enough. I'll check in again when I have finished it. Hey there, so I'm here to finish off the vlog because I have finished Fourth Wing earlier today. And you know what? I still continued to have a good time with it. However, it was not a 5-star read like I was hoping. I don't love it as much as those people who have been really hyping it up, but I also don't hate it as much as those people who have been hating on it. So I'm a little bit middle of the road on it, but mostly good things to say. Unfortunately, while I was quite feeling the romance in the first half, it really picked up in the second half. Like they got very serious very soon, and that was a downfall for me. I love a slow burn, and I just hate when it gets like too cheesy and like too serious too soon. There's also kind of something else that happened that reminded me of Akatar, not to compare it again, but there's something very similar to like Reese and Farah that I didn't overly love. I won't spoil it, I guess. That was a downfall. And then we had a lot of action if you're into that, but then we had a death. And there was so much death in this book, okay? And I've heard people talk about that, like so many people die. It's like, are you trying to get soldiers for your army, or are you trying to just kill them all before they can help? Like so many characters die, and I didn't really care that much about a lot of them because you're not supposed to, I guess. But we did have a very like sad death at the end. We also had some like twists and interesting reveals that I was here for. Like this is a romantasy, but like there is plot, you know what I mean? Like there's definitely plot. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned, but there's magical powers if you're into that. Like the dragons, once you're bonded with a dragon, like their power kind of like seeps into you and you manifest a power or like a signet, and everyone's is different. So there is that kind of trope of like everyone has this cool like superhero power, which is kind of fun. It doesn't really make sense. I don't know, but I liked that, and I just think it was a fun time. Like don't take it too seriously. You know what I mean? I am nervous for the sequel because, you know, I decide to read it and then the sequel comes out and everyone hates the sequel, but I guess I will read that at some point. But yeah, I'm giving it 4 stars. If I didn't say, it's gonna be a 4-star read. Overall, enjoyed it. Glad I read it. Glad I can finally understand what everyone is talking about. But yeah, not my favorite, not my least favorite. Definitely things to critique about it, but also it's fun. And I'm gonna stress again, I do really like the disability rep. I do think that that was cool and well done, and I think Rebecca has the disability that is portrayed in this book, which just shows how important own voices are. So I do want to highlight that. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of this vlog. I'm so sorry it is so long. If you made it this far, bless you. Thank you for watching and sticking around. As you can see, we had a lot of 4 stars. We did have one more disappointing read with Maybe at the Lake, and then Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone, I think was the fave. I think that was the best one. Hopefully you will leave me a comment, like, and subscribe, do all those things. I hope you have a great rest of your year and a great new year. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.